I just returned from a 12-day trip in Egypt, and I managed to stay plant-based and gluten-free throughout the whole trip. In this video, I will share with you how I prepared my trip, what I brought with me, traditional Egyptian dishes, including raw options, how to handle fruit bought at the market, and a click-by-click guide on how to translate an Arabic menu into your own language in the restaurant. It can be a little bit difficult to travel Egypt on a plant-based gluten-free diet because the main part of Egyptians do not know the difference between vegetarian and vegan. And on top of this, gluten-free is like they never heard of it. So you really have to explain it to them. To make this easy for you, I made a sheet in Arabic and English explaining what gluten-free and vegan means, and you can print this and bring it on your trip. I like to give this to the waiter and they can give it to the chef. This way, the chef would get it in writings, and this avoids any mistakes when the waiter not really understanding what you say and when he has to tell it to the chef. As I said, gluten-free is all new to the Egyptian people. So sometimes you order a vegetable soup and you realize when you dig into it, it's actually pasta in it. So be really careful and always ask if there's gluten in the dish. But it's all in the sheet and it will make it much easier for you. To make sure I could stick to my gluten-free plant-based diet, I contacted my agency and I told them about what I ate, not only gluten-free and plant-based, but also all of those medical medium troublemaker foods I do not eat. And I asked them if it would be any trouble when traveling Egypt. They were very helpful on arrival. Even though we arrived really late one night, our guide had bought a lot of food for me. There was melons, bananas, apples, strawberries, oranges. I've told him I need lemon for my lemon water, and there was lots of lemon there. And I didn't have to pay for any of those. It was just included in the trip. During the trip, I just had to say, I'm out of bananas. Can you please get some more? And my guide would provide it for me the next morning. And on top of this, the agency sent me a list of all the hotels, and I wrote the hotels and explained to them that I was gluten-free and plant-based, and there was some other stuff I couldn't eat, like corn, soy, vinegar, and lots of oils. On arrival at the hotels, the guy checked in for us, and he explained in Arabic to the staff that I was plant-based and gluten-free, and this made it whole much easier to stay in the hotel. When I travel, I always bring these items. It's a wooden cutting board, a lemon squeezer, a knife, a mesh, and a big mason jar. This way I can prepare almost any fruits and bring them on my daily trips. I also bring a big box of organic medjool dates to make sure I always have something calorie-dense to eat. In the Life-Changing Food book, Anthony writes that you can always have a date in your pocket and you will never go hungry. So if not for good plant-based luck, you can always eat the day. On arrival in a new hotel, the first thing I do is emptying the minibar. I take out all the liquor and the soft drinks and all the snacks and just put it on top of the shelf, and I pop in my own food. I bring capsules with oil of oregano. I have one capsule before every meal, and it's a really easy way to make sure you won't have your vacation ruined by a bad stomach, but even more important, that you won't catch any viruses, bugs, or bacteria from other people preparing your food. Then I bring the small box that I always bring to the restaurants. It has these infection wipes before and after the meal, a small glass with capsules with oil of oregano. And in this one, I have organic tea, different kinds. This is a mint tea. Actually, it wasn't necessary to bring tea to Egypt because there's a lot of tea we can drink, but I come back to that. I also bring my all-time favorite reusable bottle from Pantico. It's PPA and PPB free. And it's really cool because it got this big hole here, so it's really easy to squeeze in some lemon before I leave the hotel. Of course, this is not enough for a whole day, but if we stop at cafes, I often ask for some fresh mint to put in my water bottle as well. This way I will have living water throughout the whole day. I will put a link to this bottle and all the other things I bring in the description if you like to have one yourself. The traditional Egyptian breakfast is full. It's a bean-based thick soup with cumin and other spices. You eat it with chopped onions, tomatoes, and you squeeze some lime over it, and you have some falafels on the side. You know me, I'm usually fat-free, so I'm not going to start my morning with beans and deep-fried falafels. But because this is the traditional breakfast, you will only find the falafels in the breakfast menu and not later on in the day. So I like to wrap the falafels in a napkin and bring it to the room and store it in the minibar. And I can bring it along when I go on day trips and I'll have it later in the day. In Denmark, where I live, store-bought falafels and restaurant falafels often contain gluten. I don't know if it's in your country as well, but in Egypt, it's only made of fava beans, fresh herbs, and chickpeas, so you can eat it even though you're gluten-free. But it's oil fried, and this oil might be used for other things. It might be used for something that's gluten-coated, so the oil might have gluten in it. So what did I eat in a day on my plant-based gluten-free diet? In the morning, I made fresh lemon water in my hotel room. I brought this big mason jar so I could make 1 liter, 32 ounces. I squeezed in the lemon that my guide bought for me, and I had some raw honey I brought from home, and I had my 1 liter of lemon water to fresh my liver first thing in the morning. Of course, I couldn't make my celery juice, so I had to skip this through the trip. In several of the hotels, they had honeycombs on the breakfast menu, so it was really natural raw honey. And you could just scrape it off and put it on your fruits. It was really nice. I haven't had this since I was a kid, and my mom had her own base. So for breakfast, I usually had slices of grapefruit with raw honey on it, a big plate of salad, lots of leafy greens, tomatoes, cucumbers, some onions. I had some fresh fruits and a fruit juice, maybe a cup of mint tea. If you have found this helpful so far, please give it a thumbs up so the information can spread to more people. Before we left the hotel for sightseeing in the morning, I filled my bottle with lemon water. I like to bring bananas, and I pack them in this banana guard, which is a container that makes sure the banana doesn't get mashed in your backpack. I brought some apples because I feel if you're thirsty and you don't have living water, it's really nice to have some apples because they're so juicy. And I packed them in a small box so they wouldn't get bruises in my backpack. And of course, I brought some dates. They're always really good. This might sound like a lot of snacks, but most days we will return to the hotel late in the afternoon. Some days, of course, I have some leftovers, but better that than to go hungry. Every day we were out sightseeing if we wasn't traveling from place to place. So lunch was always in a restaurant. In Egyptian restaurants, when you sit at the table, you get served a plate of tahini and some bread. The tahini is made, of course, tahini, with some lemon and some water, sometimes oil. Of course, I would prefer to avoid the oil, but when it comes to that, canola oil is not really common in Egypt. They use sunflower oil or olive oil, so it's kind of like a bitter oil. For lunch, I usually had a small salad and a hot dish. The hot dish could be falafels and mashed potatoes, a soup, a clear soup, or a curry soup. But my favorite was this traditional Egyptian vegetable casserole that comes in a clay dish. It comes straight from the oven and is boiling hot. It has big chunks of white potatoes, eggplants, zucchinis, and it's in this tomato sauce that's slightly spiced. It's really yummy, and you can also get this for dinner. I also had some steamed or roasted vegetables, and I dipped them in the tahini or a baba ganoush. It's roasted eggplants mashed into a dip, a bit of spices, but not spicy at all, really smooth and yummy. It usually don't contain any dairy, but do ask to make sure. We usually had dinner at the hotel because we were too exhausted after a whole day of sightseeing to go out and find a restaurant. All the hotels we were staying at, including the Nile cruise, had a buffet, and it was a mix of all cultural dishes, of course, some traditional Egypt dishes, but also pasta and meats and spaghetti and curries and soup. Sometimes there was some fruit, but not always. The big buffet also had a salad bar with leafy greens, lots of raw vegetables to make your own salad. Sometimes romaine, sometimes just iceberg, but yeah, you can't get it all. Tomatoes, cucumbers. There was also some mixed salad with dressings that I couldn't eat, but also a lot of stuff I could eat. Usually there was some soups, and one of those were plant-based. There was roasted vegetables, cooked potato. Be sure to ask about the potatoes. Sometimes they're coated in something that tells the gluten, so be careful. Always ask the chef. Usually there was some steamed vegetables. Sometimes there was hot vegetable casserole or some roasted eggplants. They use a lot of eggplants. There was rice, but I don't want to eat that because it's a troublemaker food. I think it's liver-free. There's also some baba ganoush or some tahini. I found this red pepper-based, really spicy dip at the last place we stayed, and it was really yummy. It was all gluten-free, all plant-based. Really nice. But of course, as you can imagine, lots of stuff I couldn't eat. I had to ask the chef about a lot of stuff, but actually I didn't feel that it was a problem that I was plant-based and gluten-free. Because we were staying several nights at every hotel, I made sure to make friends with the chef, and I did that by complimenting his food and, oh, this is a really good baba ganoush, or, oh, do you have some of those nice vegetables you made yesterday? Like everybody else, they like to be complimented. So they usually made a dish just for me and served it at my table, even though everybody else went to the buffet. So I could choose between roasted vegetables, steamed vegetables, falafels, even though it wasn't falafel time, Egypt time. So I could really recommend that you compliment the chef and tell him that his food is yummy, because it will all come back to you. Sometimes you don't really realize how exact you have to be when you order something. There was a night in one of those hotels with a buffet, and they asked me, what would you like? Some roasted vegetables? And I said, yeah, that would be great. To me, roasted vegetable, like raw vegetables on a grill or on a barbecue, but it was covered all in oil. So I didn't have it all. Actually, I ate the rice that came with it because it was too oily. But then the next night, they asked me what would I like? And I said, could you make the roasted vegetable, but without the oil? And I actually got it without the oil. So you have to be very exact when you tell them how you would like your food. And in my experience, they will try everything to make it possible that you get exactly how you want it. I have a really strong belief that it's so important that we keep on asking for plant-based, gluten-free food and food without a lot of oil and without vinegar. Because this way, the restaurants and the hotels, they will know that there are actually people who wants to eat this way. And hopefully soon, someday in the future, we will have this kind of food in the menu. And it will make it so much easier for us to eat out or travel. But it will also make the world a much healthier place for everybody. So keep on asking. Please be annoying when you're eating out. Please keep on asking for plant-based and gluten-free options. As you can hear, a lot of the cooked dishes contains oils, so it's difficult to be fat-free in Egypt. Also because there's the beans and the chickpeas, that's also protein, which Anthony teaches us is actually fat. So fat-free, it's not really possible if you don't want to go raw. If you prefer cooked food for dinner and lunch, it is possible to reduce the fat. But if you just take whatever is on the buffet, it's impossible to be fat-free if you take the cooked food. That's my experience. Traveling Egypt on a raw vegan diet is possible too. You can have fruit, salads, and juices for your breakfast, and the same throughout the other meals. While you're on the road visiting all the sites, you can pack some fruits. I packed some bananas in the banana carts. I bring dates and apples, and one day I actually cut up a whole melon and put it in a big lunchbox and brought it with me. If you decide to buy fruit and vegetables at the market, or your guide buys some fruits and vegetables for you, make sure that it's peelable, because then it's less likely to get any kind of germs or viruses and stuff from other people touching it. If you like to eat cucumbers and mangoes, you can bring a potato peeler as well, or you can wash it with your own veggie soap. If you bring the cutting board and a knife, you can chop up a melon, you can chop up oranges and all kinds of fruits. If you get, for example, strawberries, like my guide, or for me, you want to rinse them because organic is not really a thing in Egypt and they had some dirt on it. I cleaned the bathroom sink with my own soap and I poured in some drinking water and I popped in the strawberries and I rinsed them there. I took some clean paper towels and put them aside and made them drip dry. So this is an option as well. I know this is not suitable for everybody, but it was okay for me. It was a really clean hotel. And because I cleaned it with my own soap, I was sure that it didn't have any chemicals and stuff in it. So traveling Egypt on a raw vegan diet is definitely possible as well. For drinks, there's also a lot of options. I haven't been to a single restaurant that didn't have mango juice or fresh pressed orange juice. Just make sure when you order these drinks that there's no sugar in it, because when they make the mango juice, which is actually a mango smoothie, they pop the mango into a blender and they add a sugary water to it. And I assume that it's processed sugar and it's often GMO, and we would like to avoid that. So I just order it with bottled water or no water at all if it's possible. And this way it's more clean. When you arrive in the hotels, often in the lobby, there will be some drinks, there will be some water with some herbs, there will be hibiscus tea and some fruit juices. The fruit juices often they're not fresh, so stay away from those. The hibiscus tea will be packed with sugar and it's often refined sugar with GMO, so stay away from that as well. And drink the water with the herbs and the lemons. Mint tea is also a really big thing here. Often it's served with black tea in a bag, mint tea in a bag, and fresh mint. So 3 ingredients. So when you order mint tea, make sure to order it without the black tea because it contains a lot of caffeine and it's a troublemaker food and we would like to avoid that. So either just order it without the black tea or only the fresh mint is really nice. Hibiscus tea is also really common. You can get it in every restaurant you go to. It's served cold with a lot of sugar, so make sure to order it without sugar. And then it's quite sour, but you can order some honey and put it in yourself. Actually, I like the sour. It's icy cold and sour, and it's just nice in the heat. At home, I like to have a cup of lemon bubble tea half an hour before bedtime. This was possible because I brought my own tea and because there was a kettle in the hotel room. When you're in a restaurant, the menu would be in Arab and it's impossible to read. It's quite easy to translate the menu into your own language. You take your phone and you take a picture of the menu. Then you open the app Google Translate. You set the languages to Arab because that's the starting language. And then the language you want to translate it into. In this example, I've chosen English. Then you go to the lower right corner, select camera, and then a photo option appears. You can scan the menu with this, but it will be bumpy. And I like to import the picture, and it's in the lower left corner. If you click here, you can see the whole folder with all your photographs, and you can import the photos you would like to translate it. And it's translated into your own language. So that's how easy it is. And when you order the dish, you should also hand them the printable gluten-free plant-based explanation, which is in the description, to hand to the waiter, to hand to the chef, to make sure you get the right dish and it's also plant-based and gluten-free and no mistakes are made. If you're going to Egypt, make sure to watch this video next where I explain what to prioritize if you don't have the time for all the sites. And also this video where I explain some hacks about not getting overloaded with perfumes.